They laughed the moment they saw the rifle. Bright orange, scratched, out of place on a U.S. Marine Corps range built for steel, discipline, and silence. The old man didn't react. He just adjusted his grip, breathed once, and looked past the horizon like he was staring through time itself. No one there knew it yet, but in less than 5 minutes, a single shot would ripple all the way up the chain of command and stop a general mid-briefing. If you love your country and respect your soldiers, hit that subscribe button right now. The desert morning at Camp Granite was already alive with noise. Boots hit gravel in rhythm. Rifles were checked and rechecked, and the low hum of generators blended with distant wind rolling across the range. It was a standard Marine training day, the kind designed to grind arrogance down into discipline. Targets were set at extreme distances, testing patience more than muscle. For the young Marines standing in line, it was another test to pass, another box to check. Then the old man arrived. He didn't show up in a convoy or with ceremony. He walked in quietly, leaning slightly on a cane, wearing a faded denim shirt and a cap that had seen decades of sun. His posture wasn't weak, just economical, like every movement had been refined to remove waste. Slung over his shoulder was a rifle that immediately drew attention for all the wrong reasons. Orange. Not safety orange. Not regulation orange. Just orange. A civilian-looking chassis that clashed violently with the muted desert tones and standard-issue black rifles around it. Conversations stopped for half a second. Then came the smirks, the whispers, the barely contained laughter. A few Marines nudged each other, eyes flicking between the rifle and the man holding it. Someone muttered something about Halloween. Another joked about Nerf guns. None of it was loud enough to be called disrespectful, but it was enough to sting if the old man had been paying attention. He wasn't. The range officer glanced at the paperwork, eyebrows knitting together. The name was unfamiliar, the age almost unbelievable. 78 years old. Civilian contractor access. Veteran status verified. Clearance granted at a level that didn't make sense for someone who looked like he should be fishing somewhere quiet instead of standing among Marines half a century younger. The officer looked up, then down again, then back at the rifle. "Sir," he said carefully, "you're aware this is an advanced long-range exercise." The old man nodded once. "I'm aware." No bravado, no explanation, just 2 words delivered with a voice worn smooth by time. The Marines watched as he was guided to a firing position usually reserved for top scorers and visiting specialists. The distance markers went far, then farther, then past where most exercises stopped. The furthest steel target sat so far away it shimmered like a mirage, barely distinguishable from the desert floor. For 1,000 meters. Someone laughed again, louder this time, before catching himself. The old man laid the rifle down gently, like he was setting a sleeping child into bed. He removed the cap, revealing short gray hair, and closed his eyes for a brief moment. Not to pray, to remember. His hands moved with deliberate calm. He checked the bolt, adjusted the scope. Not hurried, not slow, just exact. The Marines grew quieter without realizing it. There was something unsettling about the way he worked. No wasted motion, no uncertainty. It didn't look like a man trying to prove something. It looked like a man returning to something he already knew by heart. Wind flags fluttered far downrange. The old man watched them like they were speaking a language only he understood. He didn't ask for a spotter, didn't request data. He just watched, listened, waited. A Marine whispered that the target was beyond confirmed kill range. Another said the bullet drop alone made it impossible. A third shrugged and said it would be entertaining either way. The old man settled in. His cheek met the stock. His breathing slowed until it almost disappeared. The orange rifle looked less ridiculous now, less bright, as if the desert itself had decided to stop judging it. The range officer raised a hand, about to call time. That was when the old man spoke again. "Wind's about to shift." No one responded. 5 seconds passed. The flags changed direction. The officer lowered his hand slowly. The laughter was gone. The world seemed to narrow around the old man. The chatter behind him faded into nothing. There was only distance, wind, gravity, and memory. For 1,000 meters wasn't just a number. It was a conversation with physics, one most people lost. His finger took the slack out of the trigger. The shot cracked across the desert, sharp and clean. Not loud, not dramatic, just final. For a long moment, nothing happened. The Marines watched the target through spotting scopes, expecting dust, a miss, maybe a ricochet. Some still expected failure, because failure made sense. Failure fit the story they had already written in their heads. Then the steel rang. It wasn't loud at first, just a faint, delayed metallic note carried on the wind. Easy to miss, easy to doubt. Then the target camera confirmed it. Dead center. The range froze. No cheers, no laughter, just stunned silence broken only by the wind. Marines lowered their scopes slowly, eyes wide, faces stripped of amusement and replaced with something closer to disbelief. The range officer stared at the monitor like it had betrayed him. For 1,000 meters, the old man worked the bolt and stood up, stepping back from the rifle as if the job was already finished. His expression hadn't changed. No smile, no satisfaction, just a quiet neutrality, like he'd checked the time and found it accurate. The officer swallowed hard and keyed his radio. Within minutes, phones started ringing in places far from the desert. Data logs were pulled. Video feeds were reviewed. Numbers were checked, then checked again. There was no error, no malfunction, no trick. The shot was real. In a secure briefing room miles away, a general paused mid-sentence as an aide leaned in and whispered. The general frowned, then waved him closer. Another whisper, then a third. The general stopped talking altogether. He turned toward the screen where the range feed was now playing on a loop. The orange rifle, the old man, the delayed ring of steel. For a long moment, no one spoke. "Give me his file," the general said quietly. The room shifted. Back on the range, the Marines had formed an unspoken semicircle around the old man. No one mocked him now. No one joked. One Marine, barely old enough to shave without a waver, stood a little straighter than before, eyes fixed on the veteran with something like awe. The old man picked up his cap and placed it back on his head. "That's enough for today," he said, voice calm. The range officer nodded, almost reflexively. As the old man turned to leave, a Marine stepped forward, hesitated, then snapped to attention and saluted. One by one, the others followed. Crisp, respectful, earned. The old man paused. He returned the salute, not sharply, not casually, but correctly, perfectly. Later, when the general finally arrived, the desert sun was already lowering. The general approached without entourage, without rank on display, and stopped a few feet from the old man. For a moment, they simply looked at each other. Then the general spoke. "We've been teaching from your shadow," he said. The old man nodded once. "Just make sure they stand tall in it." They shook hands. That evening, the Marines didn't talk about the orange rifle anymore. They talked about discipline, about humility, about how respect isn't demanded by volume or age, but earned through quiet mastery. The old man left the base the same way he arrived. Alone, uncelebrated, unfollowed, but the laughter never returned. And somewhere in the desert, a steel target still bore the mark of a shot that reminded everyone watching that legends don't always announce themselves. Sometimes they just show up, do the impossible, and leave the world a little more honest than they found it. From which part of the country are you watching this video?